can still hear that voice.
The trailer for Insidious 5 is finally here, titled The Red Door, changing its title from it previously being called Insidious Fear the Dark. That title change to me isn't really a big deal, but what we'll be doing here, guys, is just talking about the trailer for Insidious 5, not necessarily a breakdown, just giving you my general thoughts and reactions to it. You know, with the first Insidious movie coming out in 2010, that was 13 years ago, there's a lot of us that maybe have memories of checking it out as a kid with our family, being kind of terrified. This was a PG-13 horror movie for the time, and I remember being in that theater thinking, no way is this PG-13, I am scared crapless. That was a PG-13 version of shitless. So be sure you guys also leave me your thoughts down below of what you thought of this trailer for Insidious 5. Does it get you excited to jump back into the world? Were you kind of let down by it, underwhelmed? Even though it's only been 13 years, do you think there's some sort of a nostalgia attachment if you saw it way back in 2010? Curious to hear from you guys. But looking at the trailer here, I don't want to be one of those Debbie Downers. I'm still extremely excited for this movie, but trailer was a little underwhelming for me. I'm not sure what I was necessarily hoping to get out of it or see in the footage of this trailer, but nothing particularly stood out to me as being horrifying or super scary in terms of like the little jump scares or creatures going around. I'm extremely happy they are bringing back that Darth Maul looking demon. That scene will forever be ingrained in my body, because just imagine seeing that for the first time in a giant theater. My soul left my body for like 2 seconds when that happened. And you know, that's what this franchise has been built on, is those jump scares. Since this is a PG-13 horror franchise, it doesn't rely much on, you know, gore, blood, or even violent deaths. The things that make the Insidious franchise stand out is well choreographed jump scares. You know, a lot of times in the horror community, you hear the word jump scare and you automatically have a negative connotation, but that's because so many horror movies abuse that trope for a cheap scare. It's the easiest thing they can sometimes do to just get you jumping in your seat, because if you put the music really low and then out of nowhere you jump out, you're gonna jump. But I think what those first two Insidious films did great is not only give you some creepy jump scare moments, there was actual visual looking things that just were horrifying. Like that one scene of a ghost family just standing in the living room, then out of nowhere they flip on a smile. Creepy. Or the haunting revelation at the end of the first film where you find out the dad's actually possessed by this haunted, creepy old bride. So when jumping back into the trailer here, there weren't necessarily any like setup creepy moments that stood out to me, like, oh, that's gonna be an interesting sequence that could be really horrifying. It feels like a bunch of the same of what we've seen since the last Insidious film. And again, they could be saving a lot of the good jump scares and suspenseful moments for the actual film. Like, I was kind of surprised they did a callback to the red and black looking demon behind Dalton this time. But still, even if the jump scares aren't going to be that great in the film, the thing I most want to see with this is just the Lambert family again. It's so cool to have them all be returning 10 years later. It's a great bonus that it's all the same cast members as well. This is the same kid actor from the first film, Ty Simpkins. Seeing him all grown up and going to college, man, makes me feel a little bit old, but this already built-in attachment to this family and wanting them to just be okay after everything they went through, that's kind of what I mainly want to go into this movie for, is to see their story and their conclusion. Because if you look at the description where Sony posted the trailer on YouTube, in the plot synopsis, it says this is the final chapter of the Lamberts family terrifying saga. So for all intents and purposes, this kind of completes the trilogy of the first two movies. Some choices they decided to make in the story I'm not exactly in love with is the fact that most of the family kind of forgot what happened to them 10 years ago. There's a line mentioned in here that the demons, or I guess ghosts, have suppressed their memories, whether that's a psychological thing they did to themselves or they're just staying hidden within their minds before they manifest once again all this time later. Not exactly sure, but I was kind of looking forward to see how does a family that went through this traumatic experience of their son in a coma, demons coming after them, a father being possessed, how do they deal with that 10 years later? And just knowing we kind of forgot, but something's bothering us. I'm like, oh, that's kind of a bummer. I'm also going to be curious to see how much the other siblings maybe play into the movie. From the looks of the trailer, it seems to be extremely focused on the father and son relationship. You know, Rose Byrne is also in here, happy she's back, but she didn't get a lot of time in the trailer. And those two other kids that they have at the funeral, they just seem like they're going to be background characters, not really even involved in the haunting. I am going to be curious to see how much they dive into the lore of this universe and what happens once they get past the Red Red Door. It has been a long time since I've seen the first two Insidious movies, so I'm definitely going to need a rewatch. But I don't remember them specifically being so heavy on the lore, or even us knowing too much about this red and black-faced demon. It would be really cool to explore him and to see why they keep going after this specific family. If I remember correctly, Dalton just has the ability to kind of travel between worlds when he sleeps, and he just went a little too far one night, causing him to be in the coma. I'm sure those powers are going to come back in handy here when they go traveling into the Red Door. So yeah, look, while the trailer didn't exactly wow me or made me feel like this will be another terrifying entry, the main thing I want to see is just the characters. Be with them once again, hit those little nostalgic notes, because when that little Tulip song came back on, in the window, when that note started playing, it kind of was like, oh man, back into this universe. It's exciting. So yeah, I throw it off to you guys. The trailer for Insidious 5, The Red Door, did it wow you? What are you expecting to see? Do you think we're going to get the same scare and thrills? You know, Patrick Wilson is directing this movie for the first time. There's not a lot to go off on exactly what his style in horror is, but he's worked with James Wan and Lee Winnell. I think he's worked with some great people to shape him up to be a good horror director. Anything, everything, be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.